So the video I have for today is a video where I want to discuss the failings of our criminal justice system. In particular, the failings of our criminal justice system when it comes to prosecuting juveniles. This is a very frustrating topic for me, and today it's particularly sad because it involves the murder of a Cleveland police officer. Officer Shane Bartek of the Cleveland Division of Police was 25 years old when he was murdered on December the 31st, 2021, New Year's Eve. He worked the 5th District in Cleveland, Ohio, and had been on the department since 2019. I fully believe that he would be alive today if our juvenile criminal justice system had been doing its job. The headline of the article that I want to start on today says, "Teen charged with murder and off-duty officer's death was first arrested at the age of 14. This person's name is Tamara McLeod. She's the person who's charged with killing Officer Bartek. During the day of December the 31st, 2021, she and a male accomplice attempted to rob Officer Bartek while he was in his vehicle. They pointed a gun at him. A struggle ensued. He was shot 2 times, and he did not survive. Tamara McLeod has been charged with his killing. As the article said, she was first arrested and charged at the age of 14. She has 5 arrests for violent offenses that are listed in this article. We're going to go over them in a little bit, and we're going to talk about where her punishment was. Before we do that, I want to frame the story a little bit for you, because juvenile crime has been on the rise, not just in Cleveland, but around the country. I have another story that's local, and I'm going to go over that story, and then we're going to go back to the one about Officer Bartek being murdered. So in this article, this is in response to a press conference that was held a week prior, where a bunch of law enforcement agencies got together and they spoke about how a group of 40 juveniles have been committing a tremendous amount of crimes, from perch snatching to car thefts. There's a little bit of video embedded showing some of these crimes in progress, which I'm not going to show today. So the headline reads, "Franklin County Juvenile Court Judge Calls Police Press Conference on Juvenile Crime Propaganda." So there was a press conference where police chiefs from a whole bunch of different agencies around Central Ohio all got together. They had a press conference and they said that juvenile crime is on the rise. And this judge said that that was propaganda. This is the judge. This is Judge Kim Brown. I'm going to go back to the original story. I'm not going to cover this one really today, but apparently she has some issues. The Ohio Disciplinary Council has filed a complaint against Franklin County domestic relations judge. It's about, I think she's being accused of coercing someone to do something. But maybe we'll cover that some other time. So here's the story from this story where she's calling this juvenile rise in crime propaganda. Crime Tracker 10 has been reporting on increases in juvenile crime for the past few weeks across Central Ohio. Nearly a dozen police agencies spoke about a spike in purse thefts and carjackings last week. Many of those law enforcement officers say they would arrest juvenile suspects and the youth would be immediately released from custody. Judge Brown responds, "I obviously disagree that the court is coddling or soft on crime or running catch and release programs. Several law enforcement agencies joined together last week to explain how a group of 40 individuals have wreaked havoc in central Ohio, from purse snatchings to car thefts.
Well, good afternoon here.
Sorry, 10TV's website is kind of annoying. So one of the local police chiefs says, we locked them up, and before we get back to the station to finish the paperwork, they're back out victimizing people. This is a major problem. Whitehall Police Chief Mike Crispin. In response, Judge Brown wrote a letter calling the press conference propaganda, and that since the 1990s, juvenile justice programs implemented since that time have been more effective than the tough love approach suggested by less learned stakeholders. So what she's saying right here is juvenile justice reforms implemented have been more effective than tough love that is suggested by less learned stakeholders. So what she's saying is that she's smart and everyone that disagrees with her is stupid. Just so we're clear about that. And that this rise in violent crime by juveniles, that's propaganda, and that they're not running a catch and release program. These are kids. There is no juvenile life in the state of Ohio. They all go back into their community eventually. And all we've done in the interim is grow, raised, cultivated a better class of offenders. That's what she has to say about that. I'm going to talk a little bit about my own experience. And then we're going to talk about this woman who killed a police officer. I can tell you very clearly, when it comes to arresting juveniles, it is 100% a catch and release program. There was a kid a couple years ago who was terrorizing my precinct. Everybody knew his name. I knew his name. Every officer on the street knew his name. My sergeant knew his name. My lieutenant knew his name. My commander, who works first shift, and this is back when I worked third shift, doesn't interact with us on a very regular basis. He knew this guy's name. This kid was 16 or 17 years old at the time. He was very well known for stealing cars. I can't even begin to tell you how many times we either caught him or we knew that he stole a vehicle. I'm not going to necessarily put his information out there, although he's an adult now. I will say that his name rhymed with Jesse. I'm not going to say his last name. He wasn't very tall. Actually, he was short and scrawny. He liked to steal Jeeps. If we found a Jeep, we knew it was stolen by him because the seat was going to be pushed all the way forward. That was what he did. And we found stolen Jeeps parked really close to his house on a regular basis. There was one year that during a 2-week period, I personally arrested him 3 times in stolen vehicles. He stole 3 cars in 2 weeks, was arrested each time, and released each time. One of them was quite memorable because we had a plane car out, and they indicated that they called out over the radio saying that they believed they had somebody inside a car that was about to steal this car. I was one of the guys that was clear. So as I responded, one of the plainclothes guys said, "Hey, he's in the driver's seat right now. He almost has the car started. You're pulling up. That's the car right next to you." So what I did was I pulled my car, the front bumper of my car, because the vehicle that he was trying to steal was parked on the right side of the road, and it was a one-way street. I pulled my cruiser up the road. I knew exactly what car he was in. I think I could see his flashlight in the car. I put my bumper on the driver's side door of that car, preventing him from being able to exit the vehicle quickly. What that did was I pulled up, slammed the car in park, and jumped out. I probably had my door open at about the same time he realized I was there. The first thing he did was he tried to open that door. He hit my car, my front bumper, with his door, realized he couldn't get out, and he had to crawl across the seat to get out the other side. I was already running across the front of that car when he exited the vehicle he was trying to steal. Now, this kid's 16 years old, 5'4", 125 pounds. I'm much older, much heavier, and wearing a lot of stuff. He's gonna outrun me most of the time. I wasn't too far behind him, and he ran into a yard that I knew was fenced. He actually hopped the fence. I ran into the yard next to it and was running alongside of him, thinking that I was going to get to the alley first, and when he hopped the fence, I was going to catch him on the other side. Well, little did he know that officers suspected he was going to run in that direction, so they went up the alley. So as he's running through this backyard that's fenced in, it wasn't fenced on the backside by the alley, but he saw officers with flashlights coming towards him. So he jumped over the fence that I was running along, and he ended up landing directly in front of me. And he tried to run, but he was wearing tennis shoes, and the grass is a little wet, so he slipped and fell on his belly. And when I screamed at him, because a lot of times your voice is a use of force, I screamed at him not to move. He looks at me and he goes, "Don't tase me. I just pissed my pants." So that was one of my stories about arresting Jesse. But this is a juvenile who I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that we would take him to the place that we're supposed to take him, and he would either run away on his own accord or have his mom come pick him up before I even made it back to my precinct. This is a very common thing that we all know. We all know that when we take them to this one location, they're just going to be released. There's another location that's an actual lockup. And when we arrest a juvenile, we have to call and tell the juvenile court what we have, what charges we have, and then they will provide a score. They do a scorecard on this kid. Based on his score, we'll determine if he goes to the place that's catch and release or if he's actually going to go to the jail. If you arrest a juvenile in possession of a firearm, he can still go to the catch and release. That is something that happens where I work. I arrested a kid several years ago who, it was late at night. The officer that I was working with spoke Spanish and knew some things about that community. We pulled over a 15-year-old kid in a pickup truck. Inside the truck, we located a loaded firearm as well as a bundle of narcotics. It was bundled in a way that you could tell this person was selling to individuals. He also had some tattoos on him that indicated he was a member of a drug cartel. We called the juvenile court to score him, and we were told to take him to the catch and release. So when she's sitting here calling this propaganda, I'll even put her face up so you can see it. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you that she's a liar. Because what she's running is, in fact, a catch and release. Now, let's come back to Miss Tamara McLeod. This is the person who gunned down a police officer in Cleveland, Ohio. She'd been arrested 5 or 6 times for violent crimes as a juvenile. What were those crimes? In 2017, she was arrested and charged and found guilty of assault. She was sentenced to probation. In 2018, she was arrested, charged, and convicted of domestic violence. She was sentenced to probation. In 2020, she was at a party where she punched somebody and then left that party, came back to the party with a firearm. She fired multiple rounds at that person, failed to hit them. She was charged, and those charges were dropped. Later in 2020, She was charged with either robbery, aggravated robbery, or aggravated burglary. I'm not sure of the charge. But the details of her crime was that she was going on the dating site Plenty of Fish. She was arranging dates with men, going to their homes, and then shortly after she entered the home, two men with guns would enter the home, and they would commit an armed robbery. For that crime, she struck a deal with prosecutors and was given probation. In 2021, she entered a pizza shop in Cleveland, Ohio, and robbed the employees at gunpoint. She was charged, but she had not yet been arrested when she attempted to steal Officer Bartek's car and shot and killed him. In recent years, there's been a lot of talk about criminal justice reform. There's a lot of people who are going to take people like Tamara here, and they play them out to be the victims. We're being told that we can't be hard on her because she's a victim. But what about the person she assaulted in 2017? The person that she committed domestic violence about in 2018. The person that she punched and fired a weapon at in 2020. The men that she set up for robbery in 2020. What about the employees at the pizza shop who are likely afraid to go to work because they've had guns put in their faces and had money taken from them? What about Officer Bartek and his family? For some reason, as a society, we're losing sight of who are the victims of crime. We have perpetrators and we have victims. She is a perpetrator. She is not a victim. Our courts are running a catch and release program. I frequently hear loudmouth politicians who don't know what... Sorry, I almost swore. Who don't know what they're talking about. And what they'll say is, we can't arrest our way out of this. And what they're trying to say is that we don't need more police, that we don't need better police, we don't need better police tactics. What they're trying to say is that the police can't solve this problem. And what they'll say in other times is they'll say, hey, police are the problem. Well, I'm going to agree with you here for a moment. That we cannot arrest our way out of this. Because when we do arrest people, judges like Kim Brown don't do a damn thing about it. Not only do they not do anything about it, but they call it propaganda. It's not propaganda. I'm not a liar. She's a liar. And because of people like her, Officer Bartek is dead. Officer Bartek and many other people have lost their lives because we're seeing these tremendous spikes in crime. And a major factor in that is the fact that these judges and prosecutors are refusing to do anything about it. Those are going to be my thoughts for today.